Hi, this is Dr. Marion Ross with Shift Your Life. Here we are with Tim Wallace Murphy, a very noted historian, a biblical historian, a medieval historian, an Egyptian historian, a medical doctor, a psychologist, and a very, very well-known writer of over a dozen books, many of them bestsellers. We're here to talk about Chartres Cathedral, and I wanted to ask Tim, why are you so interested in Chartres, and why is it one of the places that fascinates you the most?
Chartres was described by the late Professor Joe Campbell as his parish church, and that's a feeling I share. It's a universal church, and it's important at several different levels. First of all, it's a glowing example of the continuity of use of spiritual sites. The ancients knew how to detect spiritually powerful places due to the energy that was tangible there. And we know from the writings of Caesar and De Bello Gallico, Book 4, that Chartres was the centre of veneration for the Druids. They used to worship in a grotto on the mound of Chartres a fire-blackened female figure called Virginibus Parituره. When the Romans took over, they continued this sacred usage by building a temple on the site of the forecourt of the present cathedral. And then when the Christians came along, the Merovingian kings, and they built the first Christian church there, they used the same mount. And Chartres has something in common with the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. No body is allowed to be buried on the mount itself. The graveyard is actually at the foot of the mount. And the present cathedral was built on the ruins of a Romanesque structure built by Bishop Fulbertus after the original cathedral got burnt down in a fire. But by some miracle, the relic it had been constructed to house, the shawl of the Virgin Mary, was preserved intact and is still there to this day. Nobody knows who the architect was, nobody has ever been named. According to an Australian Masonic historian, at least 8 different teams were involved in building it, and yet, while you can discern the different signatures and styles of building within the cathedral, the end result is a harmonious entity which is without equal anywhere in Western Europe.
And when you walk into the cathedral, what's your feeling?
First of all, walking from a sunlit day into the subdued blues and golds of Chartres and the beautiful shadows that are in there, it's like walking from the material world into the spiritual. The place is a hymn to spirituality. Not only was it built on a place which was already spiritually powerful due to the earth energies, but it's been built in such a way that the architecture actually acts as an amplifier and amplifies those energies and strengthens them. And the style of stained glass windows that are installed at Chartres have never been equalled before or since. It was a very special style of glass making which had been imported by the Knights Templar from what is now northern Persia, and it actually filters out wavelengths of light which are obstructive to change in consciousness.
You know, I've never learned any of these things on any of my tours to Chartres.
Well, you've had the wrong tour.
What about the labyrinth?
Oh, the labyrinth. Well, that's rather an odd one. According to the church, if you do the labyrinth barefoot and rhythmically, you get an indulgence which is equivalent to going on the pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Now, I have some slight problems with that, because the labyrinth at Chartres is a smaller version of a much older one which predates the pyramids by some 500 years, which is found in the Scilly Isles in the southwest of England. So I don't think they were doing any pilgrimages to Jerusalem. But to do the labyrinth, if you douse the labyrinth before it's used, you'll find that the centre is very powerful. If you have a party of 20 or 30 people doing it in bare feet and then douse it again afterwards, the pendulum almost takes off when you're dousing the central point. The energy is actually enhanced by walking it. and it was meant to be done rhythmically, preferably to soft music, at the equinox and similar times of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It was done seasonally. Now, the strange thing about the labyrinth is that it is claimed, and I've worked this on a model so it does actually work out, that if you could rotate the rose window on the west front downwards by 90 degrees, it would exactly cover the labyrinth.
Wow.
The strange thing is the rose window is slightly off-centre. So this was deliberate. But it must be remembered that the rose window on the west front of the cathedral predates the present cathedral by some 70 years. It had been built as an addition to the Romanesque cathedral, and when the fire took away the rest of the cathedral, this was sufficiently far distant from it to escape. And the only 11th century glass in Chartres Cathedral is in the west front, which survived the fire by some miracle. In fact, the only windows that have been destroyed in Chartres have not been destroyed in religious wars or in revolutions or in world wars. They were destroyed by the clergy, who were so impressed with their own importance that they wanted more light so that people could see them officiating at the altar. And so an act of vandalism which destroyed 8 or 9 windows in Chartres was taken place at the request of the clergy. Chartres is home to 3 Black Madonnas. One in the crypt is a replica of the one that was destroyed during the French Revolution. The one in the ambulatory, Notre-Dame du Pilar, is 14th century, and there is one in stained glass called Notre-Dame de la Belle Verrière, which is incredibly powerful, which is 12th century. Chartres is a hymn to spirituality that transcends religious boundaries. A colleague of mine, a Sufi master, once said that spirituality is a river that descended to earth through Adam, may God grant him peace, was refreshed by the great prophets Moses, Abraham, Elisha and Jesus, may God grant them peace, refreshed again by the great prophet Muhammad, may his name be blessed, and may God grant him peace. It is a river that knows no boundaries in space or culture or time, and yet each race, each creed, each culture claims it for its own. My brethren, it is always the same river. And that river is tangible at Chartres. And I've taken people from the Christian world, from the heretical world, from the Sufi tradition, and I've taken Orthodox Jews around Chartres. And nobody can go into that building without leaving in awe and wonder at the glory of God.
It sounds wonderful, Tim. How could someone get a hold of you if they wanted to take a tour?
It's very easy. They email me at timothy.murphy@orange.fr.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Tim. Stay tuned for the next Shift Doctors Travel to Sacred Places with Tim Wallace Murphy. And thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.